Chapter 5402. Bailey Hongzhuang greeted the attendants one by one. Among them, Shi Hongqiao and the others were naturally very happy. On the other hand, the attendants who were on good terms with the Shao family had rather awkward expressions. Of course, there were also quite a few people who took advantage of the situation and tried to curry favor with Bailey Hongzhuang. Every man for himself, and the heavens take the hindmost. At this time, they naturally hoped to protect their own futures. As for other things, how could they care about them? After the introductions, Bailey Hongzhuang followed Shi Hongqiao into the room. Many things happened very suddenly today, but they have all been resolved. You must be tired, right? Have a cup of tea first. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down opposite Lu Hongwei. Someone had already prepared tea for them. The radiant saint is the symbol of our sacred assembly. Here, your position is the same as mine. It can even be said that your position is higher than mine. This is because the position of president can be changed at any time, but there is only one radiant saint. Seeing Lu Hongwei's calm appearance when he spoke of this, Bailey Hongzhuang was somewhat surprised. Logically speaking, people with high authority shouldn't want anyone to threaten their position. President Lu, you are a senior that I respect greatly. Lu Hongwei smiled faintly. I know that you are a young man who respects his elders. Although I haven't had much contact with you, there have been many rumors about you recently. Not only that, President Lu and Master Guan have praised you in front of me. In the future, the Radiant Sacred Assembly will also be your territory. You don't need to be reserved. I also hope that you can treat me as a kind senior. Lu Hongwei's attitude was very amiable. This feeling was slightly different from when Bailey Hongzhuang met him in the underground market. At that time, the distance between them seemed to have been broken. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask me or any of the attendants. They will tell you. President, I want to know what I need to do in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. She was different from Xiao Shou. Xiao Shou often stayed in the Holy Light Assembly, so she knew a lot of things here like the back of her hand. However, she obviously didn't. Actually, you don't have to do anything. You're free. You can go anywhere you want. You don't have to stay in the Holy Assembly. However, if the Sacred Assembly needs you, I hope you can come as soon as possible. Actually, the Saintess is more of a spiritual leader of the Sacred Assembly. Everyone will feel more at ease knowing that you're here. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Don't worry, President. If you need my help in the future, I will definitely not refuse. As the Holy Maiden of the Light, you can make many decisions in the Sacred Assembly. Every month, you will receive abundant cultivation resources. To us, the most important thing for you is to increase your strength. Upon hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. No wonder Xiao Shou wanted to become the Saintess so much. It turned out that she didn't have to put in any effort at all, and yet she could reap many benefits. The only thing he needed to do was to increase his cultivation. She had always wanted to raise her cultivation. This wasn't something she wanted to do. During the conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang understood a lot of the situation. After that, she didn't stay in the Holy Light Assembly for long. Presumably, her family was still waiting for her. In fact, Lu Hongwei still needed to make a trip to the Shao family. Chapter 5403. Bailey Hongzhuang was naturally aware of this. Although she did not think that Xiao Shou was pitiful, this guy had bullied countless people all these years by relying on his identity. Now, it was merely an eye for an eye. However, Chairman Lu felt that this was his mistake and also a reflection of his sense of responsibility. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her residence, she found that everyone was already waiting for her. As soon as she entered, she was surrounded by the crowd. Hongzhuang, you're back. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a faint smile. Yes. Haha, you're really too impressive today. Who would have thought that you would be able to snatch the position of the Holy Maiden of Light at this time? This is simply a fatal blow to Xiao Shou. Lin Qianqian's face was full of joy. She and Xiao Souwu had been at odds for so long, yet they had always been unable to do anything to each other. Now, things were great. In the future, they would not be able to jump up and down. Hong Zhuang, come quickly. We'll prepare a celebration for you. The whole restaurant had long been booked by Di Beichen. How could they not properly celebrate such a big event? In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang was pulled to the main table and was drowned in congratulatory voices. Regardless of whether it was the Di family, the Lin family, or the Bailey family, their faces were brimming with joyful smiles. Today was truly a joyous day. I didn't expect it to be so lively here. I wonder if I'm welcome to celebrate? A light laughter sounded outside the door. Hearing this voice, Di Beichen and the rest looked outside and saw that Murong Jing, Chun Feng, and Jiang Wenyan had actually all arrived. At this moment, they were looking at them with smiles on their faces. Naturally, you're most welcome. Come in and take a seat. Haha, okay. The three of them looked at each other and immediately strode in. The whole restaurant was in jubilation. Compared to the jubilation and liveliness of Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, the Xiao family was in a gloomy and miserable state. Looking at the previous decorations, Xiao Yanlong and the rest felt that it was extremely ironic. Men, tear all of these down for me, so as not to be an eyesore, Xiao Yanlong said exasperatedly. The servants of the Xiao clan quickly began to clean up. The entire clan was immersed in sighs and groans. In the morning, everything was still so beautiful. Everyone was just waiting for the eldest miss to come back and celebrate. Now, it had actually become like this. The affairs of the world were really unpredictable. Who would have thought? Madame Xiao looked worriedly at Xiao Souwu, who had fainted. Her face was full of anxiety. So fainted after suffering such a big blow. I wonder when she will wake up? Madame Xiao looked at Xiao Yanlong and said, Sei Wu has never suffered such a big blow since she was a child. Moreover, she has always been proud of being the Holy Maiden of Light. Now that she has received such a big blow, will she be unable to recover? Xiao Yanlong glanced at the unconscious Xiao Souwu and sighed. What can we do now that things have come to this? I only hope that Sei Wu can be strong. The Di family is really too hateful. I knew that they would not accept this result so calmly. Turns out that they had already thought of a way to deal with it. In any case, we have been friends for so many years. How can they treat us like this? Tears appeared in the corners of Madame Zhao's eyes. Today's scene not only made Xiao Souwu feel very humiliated, even she felt very humiliated. Xiao Yanlong's expression was also very complicated. Who would have thought that the Di family would make a comeback under such circumstances? Chapter 5404. He suddenly wondered if Di Yu had already known about all of this, which was why he had rejected him so decisively back then. If he had known earlier, he would have put down his pride when Di Yujua asked for peace and let this matter go. At least this way, Sou's position as the Holy Maiden of Light would not have been taken away. Now, looking at the unconscious Xiao Souwu on the bed, he really felt distressed. Vice President, is there really no room for negotiation in this matter? Madame Xiao still did not give up. She did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was that rare genius. Everyone's eyes fell on Tong Yunshu. In this situation, even if Xiao Souwu woke up, her spirit would completely collapse. Unless she could take back the position of the Holy Maiden of Light, she would not be able to recover in a short time. Tong Yunshu sighed, but it's not that she didn't want to give everyone hope, but today's situation was so obvious that there was almost no room for negotiation. You have also seen the situation today. Bailey Hongzhuang was not only able to light up the Holy Maiden crystal, but also proved that her talent is really at the maximum level. This was something she did not expect. If she had known it would be like this, she would have tried her best to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Alas! Xiao Yanlong sighed, regret filling his heart. At the same time, Jun Hongqing and Jun Lingxuan also rushed over. The speed at which they came back was only slightly slower than Xiao Yanlong and the others. "How is So?" Jun Hongqing asked with concern. She should have fainted because she was too shocked. "Her body is fine," Xiao Yanlong said with a complicated look. "Today's matter, not to mention So, even we can't deal with it calmly." Jun Hongqing's mood was actually terrible to the extreme. After working hard for so many years, it was not easy to form an alliance with the Xiao family. The most important thing was Xiao Sou's identity as the Holy Maiden of Light. Now, the title of the Saintess of the Light fell directly into the hands of the Di family. He really couldn't raise his head in front of Di Yujue. He suddenly felt that everything was a trap set up by Di Yujue. He knew that it was impossible for Xiao Sou to become the Saint of Light, so he gave up on the alliance with the Xiao family. This made him secretly happy, but he suffered such a blow. The Di family is really despicable. I'm afraid they already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang is the real Saint of Light, but they deliberately waited for a day like today to attack So. Jun Lingxuan clenched his fists, his face full of anger. He knew very well how much Xiao So had been looking forward to today's memorial ceremony, but it had been snatched away at the moment she had been looking forward to the most. No one would be able to accept it. Just as everyone was talking, Xiao So slowly woke up and saw the people around her at a glance. There was a trace of confusion in her clear eyes, and in the blink of an eye, she completely woke up. The next second, she quickly stood up and turned her eyes to Xiao Yanlong. "Father, how is the position of the Holy Maiden of Light now? What happened later? Why am I here?" Looking at Xiao Sou's excited and nervous appearance, Xiao Yanlong also couldn't bear it, but he still sighed and said, "So, these things are in the past. Don't take it to heart in the future." Chapter 5405. It can't be like that, right? Xiao So looked at Madame Xiao and Madame Xiao lowered her head. She then looked at Jun Lingxuan and found that everyone's reaction was the same. Finally, her eyes fell on Tong Yunshu. She grabbed Tong Yunshu's hand as if she was grasping at a life-saving straw. "Master, tell me, they're all lying to me, right?" Tong Yunshu reached out and hugged Xiao So, comforting her. "So, don't be sad, it's not a big deal to not be the Holy Maiden." No, I won't accept it." Xiao So burst into tears. How could she possibly snatch this position away? This clearly belongs to me. At this moment, Xiao So no longer cared about her image, and sat on the ground, crying loudly. Seeing this, everyone's heart sank. This situation made them feel very helpless and distressed. Unfortunately, no matter what they said at this time, it was useless. Unless they could take this position away from Xiao So, no matter what they said, it was meaningless. Madame Xiao continued to stay in the room to comfort Xiao So while Xiao Yanlong and the others walked out. If they continued to stay, they would only feel distressed. "Vice President Tong, I have a question." Jun Hongqing suddenly spoke up. Tong Yunshu paused and turned to look at Jun Hongqing. "Master Jun, but it's fine. If Bailey Hongzhuang dies, will the position of the Holy Maiden belong to So?" His dark eyes were filled with malice. Jun Hongqing already had this idea when he saw the situation in the square. He could not let the Di family continue to be so arrogant. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had already made the Di family the limelight. Now that she was crowned as the Holy Maiden, there was no need to think about it to know that many families would try to curry favor with her. Although many of these friendships were only on the surface, it was still affection in the end. Once more families were willing to ally with the Di family, it would be even more difficult for them to deal with the Di family. Even in the past, the Di family had never posed such a huge threat to him. He vaguely felt that if this continued, the Di family would completely break out of their control. Tong Yunshu was stunned when she heard Jun Hongqing's words. She did not expect the Master Jun to have such thoughts. Xiao Yanlong's eyes lit up. In fact, his thoughts were the same as Jun Hongqing's. However, the main reason why he wanted to do this was because he couldn't bear to see Xiao Seiwu sad. This was the daughter he had always doted on the most, and she was protected in his palm. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? Vice President Tong, you can just say it, Xiao Yanlong said. Tong Yunshu thought for a moment, then said, according to my judgment, Bailey Hongzhuang is the real holy maiden. Even if she falls, it would be very difficult for Sou to become the next holy maiden. Why? Xiao Yanlong asked unwillingly. You have seen the situation today. Sou is unable to light up the holy maiden crystal. This is the most important problem. Tong Yunshu sighed. How could she not wish for Xiao Sou to obtain this position? However, the situation was already very clear. Xiao Sou was only a talented cultivator of the light attribute, and was not the holy maiden of light. Chapter 5406. President Liu may seem indifferent, but he's actually a very smart person. I'm sure he's already guessed that you'd do something like this, so he'll definitely think of a way to protect Bailey Hongzhuang and not let her be in any danger. Her dark eyes flickered with a thoughtful light. Tong Yunshu had been in the Holy Assembly for so many years and understood Lu Hongwei's character very well. Lu Hongwei would never make such a mistake. Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongqing looked at each other. The two of them already had a tacit understanding in their hearts. They understood that everything Tong Yunshu said was true. Even if it was impossible for Xiao Sou to become the saintess of the Holy Light, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang disappeared from this world, it would still make Xiao Sou a little happier. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were undoubtedly very happy on this day. Everyone gathered together, drinking and chatting happily as they talked about life. Only after 3 rounds of drinking did the crowd disperse. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came to Di Yujue's room. Father, is there something you need from us? Di Yujue's eyes were filled with satisfaction as he looked at the 2 extremely compatible people in front of him. He now felt that his son's taste was extraordinarily good and his daughter-in-law was also far more outstanding than ordinary people. Who knew how many people were envious of him now? He had found his son and brought back such an outstanding daughter-in-law. Hongzhuang, your performance today was truly stunning. Di Yujue praised. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Father, I'm only doing my best. I never thought that it would actually succeed. Now it seems that Xiao Sou has always been using your name. The real saintess of the holy light is you. At this moment, everyone understood this point. Previously, it was only because Bailey Hongzhuang had remained in the lower realm that Lu Hongwei had mistakenly raised Xiao Sou as the saintess of the holy light. Haven't I told you that my wife is very powerful? Di Beichen teased. Father, you don't have to worry at all. Di Yujue chuckled. That's right, you're right. Ha. After a round of laughter, Di Yujue's expression became a little more serious. Now that you've become the saintess of the holy light, the number of eyes on you will increase. You must be careful when you go out in the future. Di Yujue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. I'm afraid that the Xiao family and the Jun family now hate us to the bone. Xiao Yanlong has always doted on Xiao Se Wu. This time, Xiao Se Wu has suffered such a big blow that he can no longer hold back. Father, are you saying that they will find a way to attack Hongzhuang? It's not that he'll think of a way, but that he's already done it. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were both startled when they heard this. When you were at the restaurant tonight, someone had already followed you to inquire about the news. However, I took care of them. Di Yujue said slowly. Although I guessed that the Xiao family wouldn't let me go, I didn't expect them to be so fast. His ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a cold light. His cold words were filled with killing intent. Xiao Yanlong can treat the previous matter as a quarrel between the younger generation. However, this time, the Xiao family's reputation has been greatly affected, so he couldn't hold back. Chapter 5407. The Holy Light Assembly? Di Beichen's eyes narrowed. Why would they be here? They should also be here to protect Hongzhuang. If I had not discovered it early, I believe they would have already dealt with her. Du Jue said with certainty. President Liu has known the Xiao family for many years and understands Xiao Yanlong's temper very well. He also guessed what he would do, which is why he sent people to protect you. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She did not expect President Liu to be so meticulous. In the past, President Liu had always thought that Xiao Shou was the real Holy Maiden of Light, so the headquarters of the Holy Light Assembly gradually moved to the Piercing Wind City and had a very close relationship with the Xiao family. Now that you have become the Holy Maiden of Light, this has become a disadvantage. After all, there are many disciples of the Xiao family here, and there are also many spies. Your every move can be heard by them at any time. If you are going to stay here for the time being, then you must be extra careful. Du Jue's gaze was complicated. At the moment, this was the most troublesome point. According to my judgment, President Liu will definitely think of a way to solve this problem, but I'm afraid that it is not possible to solve it completely in a short period of time. There are also many Xiao family members in the Holy Light Assembly who are your enemies, especially the Vice President Tong Yunshu. She almost treats Xiao Shou as her own daughter, so if you have any dealings with her in the future, you must be more careful. Hearing Du Jue's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen both nodded. They also understood that the Holy Light Assembly was now inextricably linked to the Xiao family, and it was impossible to cut it off with a single slash. Father, don't worry, we will be extra careful. Di Beichen's expression was solemn and serious. I will protect Hongzhuang and not let anything happen to her. Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongqing are not soft-hearted people. Back then, the Jun family was able to make a move on you when you were still in your swaddling clothes, let alone now. However, since Chairman Liu is also taking care of you, it will be safer. You shouldn't stay here for too long. No one knows if they will go crazy and do something outrageous. Du Jue's gaze was deep and gloomy. He had known Jun Hongqing for so many years, and he knew that Jun Hongqing was a sinister and vicious person. Now that they were in the Xiao clan's territory, Jun Hongqing probably wouldn't have too many misgivings. We should leave after we understand some of the things here. Bailey Hongzhuang had a serious expression on her face. She understood that as the patriarch, Du Jue could not stay in the Piercing Wind City for too long. If he worried his family members, he would also feel uneasy. However, after he returned, he remembered that he still had to ask the president about the use of the Maiden Crystal and the relationship between the Maiden Crystal and his master. After she had figured out everything she wanted to know, she returned with the others. As the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly, she couldn't possibly return on the second day of her succession. It's good that you understand. I'll also remind you. Apart from that, we also need to find the spy in our family as soon as possible. Di Beichen's gaze was cold. He was not worried about other things, but if Bailey Hongzhuang's safety was threatened, he would definitely not tolerate it. Since you already have a target, let's think of a way to test him out. Chapter 5408. The next day, Du Jue left, but Bailey Hongzhuang and the others knew that Du Jue had left a part of his family's power behind to protect them. The atmosphere in the Piercing Wind City was very strange. It was obviously the Xiao family's territory, but Bailey Hongzhuang had stolen all the limelight. All the major forces had returned early, and only a small number of forces were still here, including the Ao family. Ao Zhengquang's current mood was undoubtedly extremely complicated. He had come this time to see how Xiao Shou would become the Holy Maiden of Light, and at the same time, ridicule Ao Lingxiao. But now, before he could even ridicule Ao Lingxiao, the position of the Holy Maiden of Light had fallen into the D clan's hands. He was very worried that Ao Lingxiao would use the power of the D family to find trouble with him, so he came to the Jun family to seek protection. After all, after the Jun family and the Xiao family joined forces, their strength was much stronger than before. Now, not only did the D family not weaken, they were even more in the limelight than before. He was very helpless. On this day, Ao Junquang was thinking about whether he should go to the Xiao family. At the beginning, he had helped the Jun family to do such a thing, so the Jun family would definitely protect him. Now, he didn't know when Ao Lingxiao would come to find him, so he must let the Jun family help him. However, just as Ao Junquang was about to leave, he unexpectedly saw Ao Lingxiao's figure. Ao Junquang, are you going to the Xiao family? Ao Lingxiao looked at Ao Junquang with ridicule. The day of his revenge was getting closer and closer. Seeing the appearance of Ao Lingxiao, Ao Junquang's face suddenly became cold. What does it have to do with you? You going to the Xiao family naturally has nothing to do with me. I just want to remind you that what is not yours is not yours. Even if you use all your tricks in the end, you will still return to your original position. Ao Lingxiao stared at Ao Junquang, his eyes full of killing intent and coldness. I will definitely avenge my parents, kill you beast, and take back the whole family. Ao Lingxiao, don't think that you're so great just because you have the support of the D family. Let me tell you, stop dreaming. Ao Junquang fiercely glared at Ao Lingxiao, but his heart couldn't help but feel weak. He had never worried about such a problem before, but now the situation had changed, so he couldn't help but worry. As soon as his voice fell, Ao Junquang was ready to leave. Ao Junquang, you haven't said a few words and you're in a hurry to run. Are you guilty? Lin Yi looked at Ao Junquang mockingly. I didn't see that you are such a beast in human face before, but now I finally see it. Seeing Lin Yi's appearance, Ao Junquang's confidence unconsciously weakened a little. A large family like the Lin family was not what the Ao family was capable of contending with. Ao Lingxiao, now you know how to hide behind a woman. You're really promising. Ao Junquang was a little jealous. He didn't understand why a guy like Ao Lingxiao, who was abandoned by everyone, could get everyone's support. Such a guy should be spurned by everyone. Obviously, he had nothing and couldn't help the D family. Why did Di Beichen always protect him like this? On the other hand, he had done so many things for the Jun family, but he had always been ordered around. He didn't have the same treatment as Ao Lingxiao. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel depressed. Chapter 5409. Ao Lingxiao, don't be too arrogant. This sentence directly pierced Ao Junquang's heart, and his face suddenly became very ugly. Don't worry. I won't do anything to you today. Looking at Ao Junquang's nervous look, Ao Lingxiao chuckled. However, you know what you did in the past. I don't understand what you are talking about. Ao Junquang snorted coldly. You did such a beastly thing in the past, and now you are still shamelessly yelling in front of me. Even if you return to the family, you will definitely not have a good end. Ao Junquang, now everyone knows the truth. It's useless for you to keep biting like this. Lin Yi was speechless. She suddenly felt that Ao Lingxiao was really tricked by Ao Junquang at home in the past. At a glance, she could guess that this guy must be lying without blinking. Miss Lin, you are just deceived by Ao Lingxiao. With that said, Ao Junquang took the opportunity to speed up and leave. He was naturally not afraid of Ao Lingxiao, but he didn't know if the D family's cultivators were nearby. If a conflict broke out later, he would be the unlucky one. Looking at Ao Junquang's back, Ao Lingxiao did not stop him. It would not take long for him to take everything back. However, he also understood that, as Ao Junquang said, if it weren't for Di Beichen and others to help him, it would be impossible for him to take everything back. He couldn't even appear in front of everyone now. He could only be a bug that couldn't be exposed to the light, curling up in the corner to survive. It was precisely because of this that he knew that Di Beichen and others were his benefactors. After he avenged his parents, no matter what Di Beichen and others asked him to do, he would do it even if he had to pay with his life. After Ao Junquang separated from Ao Lingxiao, he went to the Xiao family without hesitation. If he didn't seek help from the Xiao family, He was afraid that he would be finished. If he couldn't stop Ao Lingxiao, then his situation would be the same as Ao Lingxiao's previous situation. There was no room for negotiation. "Why are you looking for me?" Jun Lingxuan looked at the sudden arrival of Ao Zhengquang, and his brows could not help but wrinkle. Right now, he was worried about Xiao Shou. Coupled with the Jun family's current situation, he was already in a terrible fix. He really had no interest in paying attention to Ao Zhengquang. "Young Master Jun, you must help me." Ao Zhengquang nervously looked at Jun Lingxuan. "I met Ao Lingxiao earlier. He said that he would come to the Ao clan to cause trouble for me. What do you think we should do?" "It's just Ao Lingxiao. This is your family's matter. Don't tell me you can't handle it?" Jun Lingxuan said coldly. "If it was only Ao Lingxiao, I naturally wouldn't care about him. But now, he's using the D family's power to cause trouble for me. Once the D family makes a move, I won't be able to stop them. Young Master Jun, you must help me. At that time, I was listening to your orders. You can't just watch me die and not help me." Ao Zhengquang looked at Jun Lingxuan's indifferent appearance. He couldn't help but feel nervous. He had no way out. If he couldn't find help, then his fate could be imagined. "You mean when the time comes, Di Beichen and the others will also come?" "It should be." Chapter 54:10. Jun Lingxuan, who originally did not plan to pay attention, suddenly had an idea after hearing this news. Now, whether it was his father or the Xiao family head, they all hoped to kill Bailey Hongzhuang to avenge Xiao Shou, but they never had the chance. He had also received the news yesterday. They only sent 2 people to inquire about the news. Although they also hoped that if there was a chance to assassinate Bailey Hongzhuang, they did not have much hope. However, after they left, they never returned. The reason was self-evident. It could be seen that the D family had already expected this situation and did not even give them a chance to withdraw. Therefore, he clearly noticed that his father's mood was even worse today. He believed that if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others went to the Ao family, Di Yujue and the others would not personally appear. After all, Xu Xiu was from the Ao family. If the Jun family had appeared, it would be too exaggerated. If they went to cause trouble, they might be able to take the opportunity to get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This was undoubtedly the best. Ao Zhengquang saw that Jun Lingxuan was suddenly interested and nodded. "Yes, it seems that they will definitely go." Jun Lingxuan's lips slowly raised into a playful smile. He patted Ao Zhengquang's shoulder. "Don't worry. You've been working for us all these years. We won't leave you alone." Hearing this, Ao Zhengquang breathed a sigh of relief. His face was full of joy. "Thank you, young Master Jun. I knew you would not leave me alone." "Do you know when they plan to go?" Jun Lingxuan asked. If he told this news to the Xiao family head, he believed that the Xiao family head would be more satisfied with him. Now that Xiao Shou did not have the position of the Holy Maiden, her status was naturally not as good as before. However, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang died, everything would return to the beginning. If they could kill Di Beichen as well, then they would not have to worry about anything in the future. This was the most joyous thing. "I'm not too sure about that." Ao Zhengquang frowned. Previously, Ao Lingxiao only said that he would be there soon, but he didn't say when. "You don't even know the exact date. What's the point of telling me this?" Jun Lingxuan glanced at Ao Zhengquang in disgust. His brows were filled with speechlessness. "You wouldn't think that I would bring people to stay in the Ao family and wait for them to come, would you?" I don't dare. Ao Zhengquang waved his hand, looking nervous. "Jun Xiao, I don't think so, but what should I do?" "Of course it's time to find out what's going on." Jun Lingxuan patted Ao Zhengquang's head. "You only have this chance. If you can't figure it out, I won't help you. Whether or not you want to protect everything you have now is up to you." As soon as his voice fell, Ao Zhengquang hurriedly said, "Young Master Jun, I will immediately go and find out." "Hurry up and go." In the next second, Ao Junquang quickly ran out of the house, not daring to delay for a moment. However, after going out, Ao Junquang fell into a dilemma. How could he figure it out? Even if he went to ask Ao Ling Xiao would not tell him, right? Unless Ao Ling Xiao was stupid. Chapter 54:11. Bailey Hongzhuang had already left for the Holy Light Assembly. Since she did not intend to stay in the Piercing Wind City for long, she needed to get to the bottom of things as soon as possible. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, Lu Hongwei was not there yet. Instead, she met Shi Hongchao. The two of them walked into the house. This house was originally prepared for the Holy Maiden. However, the default owner had always been Xiao So. Now, it had become her room. Holy Maiden, I heard that someone went to find trouble with you yesterday? You know about it too? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Shi Hongchao in surprise. According to her father, those people came from the Holy Light Assembly. She immediately thought that they were sent by President Liu. She did not expect Shi Hongchao to know about it too. Shi Hongchao nodded and said, President Liu instructed me to do this. You should know that many people in the Holy Light Assembly have connections with the Xiao family. Naturally, President Liu could not hand this matter over to them. Therefore, this matter fell on my head. Speaking of which, President Liu would not normally hand such matters over to me. Now, Shi Hongchao felt that being targeted by the Xiao family was a blessing in disguise. If it was not for the Xiao family, he would not have been chosen by Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, he would not have the opportunity to be put in an important position. Now that he saw that the people who were originally proud of relying on the Xiao family were in a state of panic, he felt exceptionally happy. Every dog has its day. Sometimes, what was set in stone would not necessarily happen. Hearing Shi Hongchao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. So that's the case. Shi Hongchao nodded. Holy Maiden, you have now become a thorn in the side of the Xiao family. It is actually very dangerous to stay in the Piercing Wind City. You must be more careful. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Although Shi Hongchao was just taking advantage of the situation to cooperate with them, she knew that Shi Hongchao was sincere. He could be considered as her confidant in the Holy Light Assembly. Actually, I do not intend to stay in the Piercing Wind City for long. The Xiao family's influence is spread across every corner of the city. My every move will be seen by them. If we stay here, they might find an opportunity to target us. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang already had a plan in mind, Shi Hongchao was relieved. That's good. By the way, did the vice president come back? No. Shi Hongchao shook his head. Yesterday, after the vice president left with the Xiao family's team, he hasn't appeared. Everyone is also discussing this matter. Saintess, you have to be wary of the vice president in the future. She is Xiao Sou's master, so her attitude will definitely be the same as that of the Xiao family. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She's such a biased person who can't differentiate right from wrong. I'm really curious as to how she became the vice president. Actually, the reason why Tong Yunshu was able to become the vice president is partly because of Xiao So. Oh! Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She always thought that Xiao So relied on Tong Yunshu to be where she is today. She never expected that Tong Yunshu also relied on Xiao So to become the vice president. When the vice president became Xiao So's master, she was still not the vice president. It was only because Xiao So was recognized as the next Holy Maiden that her influence gradually expanded. Chapter 54:12. In that case, the two of them are mutually beneficial. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. However, Xiao So no longer has the identity of the Holy Maiden. If possible, she did not wish to have a vice president who would always create trouble for her. She had already seen how protective Tong Yunshu was. She would not change her attitude towards her just because her identity had changed. On the contrary, Tong Yunshu was probably still thinking about how to help Xiao So regain the position of the Holy Maiden. That was the most interesting thing. Shi Hongqiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and guessed what she was thinking. He immediately said, "Actually, the vice president's way of doing things is indeed problematic. Previously, because of Xiao Sou's unusual identity, no one said anything. However, everything has changed now." Bailey Hongzhuang and Shi Hongqiao looked at each other, and the corners of their lips suddenly burst into a smile. It seemed that they had the same goal. In that case, Manager Shi already has an idea? Actually, after the incident in the underground market, the president has already been suspicious of the vice president's way of doing things. Now that the Holy Maiden is already in the sacred assembly, it is not very appropriate for the vice president to be missing. If there are more rumors about the vice president at this time, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She had to admit that the older the ginger, the wiser. Shi Hongqiao was too experienced in dealing with these matters. He probably already had an idea. However, this also proved that Shi Hongqiao was already very dissatisfied with Tong Yunshu. Of course, if it were not for Tong Yunshu, the Xiao family would not have dared to be so arrogant. Then I will leave this matter to you, Manager Shi. Don't worry, Holy Maiden. I will definitely satisfy you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. I believe in you. Not long after, President Lu arrived at the sacred assembly. Holy Maiden, you are already here. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had arrived at the sacred assembly so early, Lu Hongwei was slightly surprised. I came so early to thank you for your kindness, guild leader, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile as she cupped her fists. Lu Hongwei naturally understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. Speaking of which, this matter was caused by my mistake back then. Moreover, you are now the saintess of the light. I have an obligation to protect you. No matter what, I am very grateful for President Lu's kind intentions. By the way, President, you went to see Miss Xiao yesterday. How is she now? Lu Hongwei shook his head. This matter has really hit her too hard. I'm afraid she won't be able to recover for a while, but I believe she'll be fine after some time. Regarding this, he truly felt very helpless. All these years, he had watched Xiao Sou grow up bit by bit. Now that he saw Xiao Sou become like this, he was also heartbroken. However, when he found out about this result, he was inexplicably glad. He was glad that Xiao Sou was not the real saintess of the light. Perhaps because she had become famous at a young age, Xiao Sou was now somewhat lawless. Back then, he had been worried whether Xiao Sou could really bear the responsibility of being the saintess of the light. However, because he had no other choice, he could only let the situation develop. Chapter 54:13. Although he did not know much about Bailey Hongzhuang, most of the rumors about Bailey Hongzhuang were positive. Moreover, Lu Yuhai and the rest admired Bailey Hongzhuang so much, and there must be a reason for it. Lu Yuhai and the rest were experienced people, and they were very accurate in judging people. He rarely saw Lu Yuhai complimenting a young person in front of him. Before this, he was already curious about Bailey Hongzhuang, and he did not expect her to become the Holy Maiden of Light. It was really fate. The most important thing was that, after getting along with Bailey Hongzhuang for 2 days, he also appreciated her very much. I thought about it carefully, and it might not be appropriate for the headquarters of the Holy Assembly to continue to be located in the Piercing Wind City. I will find a place to move the headquarters as soon as possible. I believe it will be better for you and Xiao Sou. As the Holy Maiden of Light, Bailey Hongzhuang shouldered the responsibility of bringing the Holy Assembly to greater height. No matter what, he would not let Bailey Hongzhuang be in any danger. Once the Holy Assembly moved out of the Piercing Wind City, everyone would reduce the relationship between the Holy Maiden of Light and Xiao Sou. Over time, the influence of this matter would become smaller and smaller. Seeing that Lu Hongwei was planning to move the headquarters of the Holy Assembly away, Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. However, after thinking about it carefully, she understood why he did it. This was indeed a way to solve the problem once and for all. In this way, she would not have to worry about her safety when she went to the Holy Assembly in the future. I will listen to you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and did not say much. This kind of thing should be left to the president. You came here today because you have something to ask me? Lu Hongwei smiled faintly as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't believe that this girl would come all the way here just to thank him. Seeing that Lu Hongwei seemed to have seen through her, Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and said, President, you are really amazing. I have not shown anything and you have already guessed it. Go ahead, what do you want to ask? Guild leader, I would like to ask about the Holy Maiden Crystal. Saintess Crystal? Lu Hongwei nodded. He walked to the table and sat down. The Saintess Crystal is a sacred object of our radiant society. It contains extremely pure radiant energy and has a purifying effect. What do you want to know about me? I would like to know the reason why you gave me this Saint Spirit Crystal for safekeeping. Actually, the Holy Maiden Crystal has always been in the custody of the Holy Maiden. After the first Holy Maiden of the Light passed away, the Holy Maiden Crystal was handed over to the President for safekeeping. Until you appeared, it was handed over to you. The Saintess chanting was different from our usual chanting, and with the Saintess Crystal's effect, the effect would be even better. Not only that, it also has a healing effect. However, this effect can only be displayed in the hands of the Saintess. This is also the reason why we gave it to you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. The Saintess Crystal actually has healing properties? Lu Hongwei nodded slightly. Yes, its healing power is very strong, but only the Saint of Light can do it. Over the years, we have tried to use other methods to make it work, but to no avail. I see. Chapter 54:14. The healing effect of the Holy Lady Crystal is very powerful and often has unexpected effects. Back then, the Holy Lady of the Light used the Holy Lady Crystal to save many people. However, just like you, the previous Holy Lady of the Light was also good at medicine. Therefore, when I heard that you were also good at medicine, I felt that everything was destined. Lu Hongwei's face was filled with emotion and a comforting smile. Back then, when he found out that Xiao Souo was not good at medicine and had no interest in it, he felt helpless. This was because it meant that the Holy Lady Crystal could not be used. Even if the Holy Lady Crystal had such power, it could not be used if the Holy Lady did not know how to use it. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, all these problems were solved. In fact, after knowing the truth, he realized that everything he had worried about was unnecessary. The reason why he felt so helpless was because he had mistaken the wrong person. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what Lu Hongwei meant and her lips curled into a bright and warm smile. President, is the Holy Lady Crystal passed down from generation to generation? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. Even though she knew that the Holy Lady Crystal was an item of inheritance, she still felt that the Holy Lady Crystal was related to her master. Actually, the upper realm's cultivation attribute was only a matter of a few hundred years ago. This was discovered when the seniors were exploring the Immortal Cloud secret realm. The Saintess Crystal was obtained from the Immortal Cloud secret realm. I also found out about this from ancient records. It has been too long and many things can no longer be known. Since the Holy Lady Crystal is now in your care, you can study it to see if it has any other uses. So far, most of the uses that we know of were discovered by the previous Holy Lady of the Light. Lu Hongwei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with anticipation. So far, there has only been one Holy Lady of the Light, and you are the second. I believe that there are many things waiting for you to discover. I also hope that under your leadership, the Holy Assembly of the Light will become stronger. President, I'm afraid that I can't handle this heavy responsibility. I believe you. You are the destined one. Lu Hongwei's expression was serious. From Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden rise to where she was now, it had already proven that she was a person with extraordinary luck. If it were anyone else from the lower realm, even if they had a certain amount of talent, it would definitely not be possible to become a famous figure in a short period of time. However, Bailey Hongzhuang completed all of this with ease, as if nothing could stop her. No matter what, I will do my best. Bailey Hongzhuang pursed her lips and smiled. Her dark and bright eyes were filled with seriousness and determination. As the disciple of the Saint of Light, she would definitely do her best to spread the power of light. After Ao Jun Kwang left the Shao clan, he sank into a deep sense of helplessness. Even if he racked his brains, he still couldn't figure out how to find out from Ao Ling Xiao when they planned to come to the Ao clan. In fact, as long as Ao Ling Xiao's brain wasn't squeezed by a door, he wouldn't have said this. Since he couldn't get an answer by asking directly, how about he beat around the bush? Chapter 54:15. He grew up with Ao Ling Xiao since he was a child. He knew very well that this guy was not good and lecherous. In addition, Lin Yi and Ao Ling Xiao were so close now. This method wouldn't work at all. As for the rest, he couldn't think of it at all. Young Master Jun gave this task to me, but I can't complete it at all. Ao Zhengquang was about to collapse. If he didn't figure this out, Jun Lingxuan wouldn't help him. But this is simply an endless loop. After thinking about it, Ao Zhengquang even felt that Jun Lingxuan wasn't helping him at all, so he found such a reason. Forget it. I don't care if he says it or not. I will go and ask first. Ao Zhengquang stood up gloomily. Anyway, he couldn't think of any way, so he might as well go all out. When Ao Lingxiao saw Ao Zhengquang appear in front of him, he was also surprised. Logically speaking, Ao Zhengquang should be trying to avoid him now. Now, he actually took the initiative to find him. Could it be that he set up a trap? Ao Zhengquang, didn't you run very fast just now? How dare you appear in front of me now? Ao Lingxiao looked at Ao Zhengquang sarcastically and playfully. He wanted to see what this guy was up to. Ao Zhengquang, who was thinking about how to anger Ao Lingxiao to know the specific time, couldn't control his emotions after hearing this. This guy really makes people want to slap him when he opens his mouth. If Ao Lingxiao knew Ao Zhengquang's thoughts at the moment, he would feel very innocent. The reason why he could anger the other party when he opened his mouth was that he learned from Beichen and others. The subtle influence was still very terrifying. Ao Lingxiao, even if you have the D family backing you now, you don't have to be so arrogant. The power of outsiders is not your own power after all. In the end, you are just a dog in the eyes of others. You are so happy. Are you so proud of it? Ao Zhengquang's eyes were deep, revealing resentment and disgust. He had always hated this younger brother of his. Obviously, he was the eldest son, but his father wanted to hand over the family master's position to him. He never considered his situation and thought, why? In the past, he had asked himself countless times, in what way was he inferior to Ao Lingxiao? Even if his cultivation talent was slightly inferior to Ao Lingxiao's, it didn't matter. Moreover, their cultivation resources had been unequal since they were young. Ao Lingxiao's cultivation resources had always been more than his own. This was a fact that everyone knew. As for his mother, because Ao Lingxiao was the youngest son, he had to give in to him. On what basis? This thought had lingered in his mind for many years. He couldn't understand. They were obviously blood brothers, yet there was such a big gap between them. Was it because he was born earlier than Ao Lingxiao? This kind of unwillingness and jealousy gradually grew in his mind. From the initial small sapling, it eventually grew into a towering tree. It crazily engulfed his heart and finally turned into a strong hatred. He hated Ao Lingxiao, but he hated his parents even more. It was precisely because they were close relatives that all of this was even more unforgivable. Chapter 54:16. Listening to Ao Zhengquang's words, Ao Lingxiao's face turned gloomy. Are you talking about yourself? Ao Lingxiao stared at Ao Zhengquang. I am indeed relying on the power of the D family, and I understand that all of this does not belong to me. But so what? In my opinion, even if the power of the AO family falls into the hands of the D family, it is still better than falling into the hands of a guy like you who is worse than a beast. What did our parents do to you? If the position of the head of the family is what you want, you can just say it. Why do you need to do such an unforgivable thing with outsiders? Until now, Ao Ling Xiao still could not understand why his brother, whom he had always trusted, would become like this. Can just say it? Ao Zhengquang chuckled. Ao Ling Xiao, don't think that you can lead me into a ditch by saying such nonsense. You were the one who killed our parents. I am enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens and avenging our parents. The family will never fall into your hand. Ao Zhengquang's eyes were firm and crazy. Even if he destroyed himself and the entire Ao family, he would not let all of this fall into Ao Ling Xiao's hands. Even if he was a sinner, so what? There was no turning back. Moreover, he did not plan to turn back. Looking at Ao Zhengquang's solemn vow, Ao Ling Xiao's eyes dimmed. Even if it had been so long, Ao Zhengquang still did not have the slightest regret. If his parents saw this scene, they would be even more heartbroken. The truth will be revealed sooner or later. No matter how much you insist, it is useless. I will take back everything that is mine, Ao Ling Xiao said coldly. Tell me, when are you going to come to the Ao family? At that time, we will have a fair fight and let the family know who is more outstanding between you and me. Ao Zhengquang stared at Ao Ling Xiao. Our grievances will be completely resolved. I have the same plan. Ao Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes, revealing an endless murderous aura. He would definitely end all of this with his own hands. However, just as he was about to blurt it out, he suddenly stopped. The reason why you're saying so much, could it be that you want to figure out which day you're planning to go? Ao Ling Xiao looked at Ao Zhengquang with vigilance. Ever since that incident, he and Ao Zhengquang hadn't talked so much. If he hadn't suddenly reacted, he might have been fooled. When Ao Zhengquang saw that Ao Ling Xiao was about to blurt out, there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. However, he did not expect that at that critical moment, Ao Ling Xiao would suddenly react. Even if I know which day you are going, I still have to inform my clansmen first, Ao Zhengquang said calmly. Hearing this, Ao Ling Xiao sneered. He didn't believe that Ao Zhengquang's thinking was so simple. Stop dreaming, I will never tell you. Ao Zhengquang had been relying on the Jun family for a long time now. If they knew when he would go, they might not set up an ambush. He was already grateful that Di Beichen and the others were willing to help him. If they were to encounter such danger again, that would be unacceptable. Aren't you a coward? You don't even dare to have a fair fight. Ao Zhengquang said coldly. You don't need to provoke me. It doesn't work on me. Ao Ling Xiao had seen through everything. Naturally, he would not say anything more. Chapter 54:17. After Ao Ling Xiao came back, he immediately told Di Beichen about this matter. In my opinion, Ao Zhengquang must have contacted Jun Lingxuan before coming here. That's why his attitude changed so much. He wanted to know the specific time from me so that he could prepare. It seems that Ao Zhengquang really can't think of a way, so he did this. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. It was because he really couldn't think of a way that he decided to fight. Otherwise, based on his daily contact with Ao Zhengquang, it was almost impossible. Speaking of which, we have to thank Ao Zhengquang. Di Beichen's lips slightly raised, and he suddenly smiled. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Ao Ling Xiao looked at Di Beichen in confusion. Thank him? Yes, he helped us think of a good way. Beichen, are you planning to use this matter to deal with the Xiao and Jun family? Ao Ling Xiao asked. When the time comes, Jun Lingxuan will definitely go. If we can kill him, it will be tantamount to solving a big problem. This is not the most important thing. Di Beichen smiled. The most important thing is that this can help our family find out where the cancer is. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. You plan to use this matter to find the real traitor? Yes. Di Baichen nodded. We have been thinking about this problem for a long time. Finding him as soon as possible is good for all of us. Originally, it was not a problem to be vigilant, but now that the Xiao and Jun family were watching Hong Zhuang, he had to remove all the hidden threats. No matter how they guarded, as long as there was a spy in the family, no one could guarantee when the news would leak out. Therefore, the only way was to completely remove this hidden danger. Ao Lingxiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen's tacit understanding. He thought carefully and suddenly understood. You are planning to take a break? Smart. Since he already had a target in mind, Di Baichen handled it very cleverly. He quietly passed the information to the person he wanted to let know without leaving a trace. After learning that Di Baichen had set the bait so easily, Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. We just need to wait a few more days and we'll know the real result. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes. If it's really the person you think it is, what do you plan to do? If it's really him, I want to know why he would do that. Even though he already had a candidate in mind, Di Baichen still couldn't figure it out. It was normal for there to be conflicts between family members, but it was hard to understand why a family member would collude with an enemy to destroy the stability of the family. Moreover, the family had never mistreated them. Although Ao Jun Kuang had done something worse than a beast, he could still understand it if he thought about it carefully. However, he really couldn't understand this person. You will understand when the time comes, Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. I always feel that there must be a reason that no one knows. Perhaps there are some things that you have overlooked from the beginning. Actually, I really don't want it to be him. Di Baichen sighed. His eyes were as deep as the sea, revealing helplessness and sighing. Chapter 54:18. Ever since the succession ceremony, Vice President Tong Yuan-shu had not returned to the guild. The matters that should have been Tong Yuan-shu's responsibility could only be put aside for the time being because she had not appeared. President, I know that Vice President Tong is very close to Miss Xiao, but she can't ignore the matters of the Sacred Assembly just because of this, right? That's right, Miss Xiao used to be the Holy Maiden, so we can understand why Vice President Tong would follow her around. But now, the real Holy Maiden is Miss Bailey, and Vice President Tong still has such an attitude. I don't think it's appropriate. The two deacons had annoyance and helplessness on their faces, obviously very dissatisfied with Tong Yuan-shu's absence. Hearing their words, Lu Hongwei frowned slightly. Since you know that Vice President Tong is very close to Sou, and now that Sou has suffered such a big blow, it's normal for her to be concerned. But President, other than this, I have something else to report to you. What is it? All these years, Vice President has been suppressing us, controlling us to give up our positions to Xiao clan. If we don't agree, they will humiliate us in every possible way. Previously, they forced Deacon Shi to take on a title and drove him out. If it wasn't for Deacon Zhao's mistake, Deacon Shi wouldn't have returned. Not only him, the other deacons were in the same situation, but they were not as lucky as Deacon Shi, so they did not have the chance to return. To be honest, if not for the president's return, we would have left when Deacon Shi was driven out. Even if we did not leave, in the end, we would be slandered and forced to leave. It's better to leave cleanly, at least we can preserve our reputation. Following the first deacon's words, the other deacons also voiced out their thoughts one after another. All these years they had been too aggrieved. The president was not in the Sacred Assembly all year round, so the vice president had the power to control the Sacred Assembly. Coupled with the Xiao clan's excessive actions, they did not even have the power to resist. Now that everyone kicks a man who is down, they did not have to care about the Xiao clan's power. Lu Hongwei, who didn't take it to heart at first, suddenly became serious after hearing this. His gaze finally landed on Shi Hongqiao. Deacon Shi, is what they said true? Facing Lu Hongwei's sharp gaze that seemed to be able to pierce through one's heart, Shi Hongqiao was extremely calm, revealing a trace of sadness and lamentation. Guild leader, what happened back then is already in the past. However, I was indeed humiliated by them in every possible way. I was forced to give them a title and stripped of my status as a deacon. This time, if it weren't for your return, I wouldn't have come back either. Shi Hongqiao's voice was very flat. There was no indignation, only sadness and helplessness, as if he was disappointed in something he had always believed in. That kind of disappointment spread from the bottom of his heart. There was no anger in it, but there was a sadness in it. Compared to everyone's angry words, Shi Hongqiao's words shocked Lu Hongwei even more. Even though he had seen Tong Yunshu's protection the last time, he had never thought that things would be this serious. I've been back before. Why haven't you guys ever mentioned it? Lu Hongwei asked. Chapter 54:19. Look carefully, in the current sacred assembly, how many people have the surname Xiao? Shi Hongqiao's voice was filled with self-mockery. We understand that among all the families, the Xiao family has the most light attribute cultivators, but don't you think that this number is a little too shocking? In these years, under the influence of others, many people have been replaced, and some have even disappeared without a trace. Not only the headquarters, even the branches are in the same situation. If not for the fact that young Miss Xiao is no longer the saint of light, we would be going against her by then. Would we have a good ending? Every word Shi Hongqiao said was like a thorn piercing into Lu Hongwei's heart, finally piercing it full of holes. He always thought that everything he did was for the sake of the sacred assembly, but he never thought that the sacred assembly would become like this, but he never cared too much about it. He thought that whether it was Tong Yunshu or Xiao Shou, they were the same as him, hoping for the sacred assembly to become stronger and better. However, he seemed to be wrong. Not everyone was so selfless. Xiao Shou completely treated the sacred assembly as the power behind her, only wanting to take it for herself, and never thought of anything else. Everything he did was for the sake of the Holy Light Assembly, while everything Xiao Shou did was to use the Holy Light Assembly as a weapon that could be used. The two were completely different. Go and bring me the list of current members, Lu Hongwei ordered in a deep voice. He had indeed neglected many things all these years, and thought that it would be very convenient for the sacred assembly to be located here, with Tong Yunshu and Xiao Shou holding the fort. He did not need to worry about anything else. Now it seemed that everything was too simple. When he promoted Tong Yunshu to vice president, it was because of her persistence and pursuit of light energy, but he did not realize that many things had already changed under the influence of others. Very quickly, someone brought the list over, and Lu Hongwei immediately flipped through it. However, when he noticed the large group of people with the surname Xiao, his eyes darkened. There were already so many people with the surname Xiao, and those who were on good terms with the Xiao family. Suddenly, he understood that what Shi Hongqiao and the rest said was the truth. In the current sacred assembly, many things were already under their control, and he did not even realize these changes under the influence of others. After a long while, Lu Hongwei raised his head, but he seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. I understand, I will handle this matter. You can do your work without worries. Yes, President. When Bailey Hongzhuang came to the sacred assembly, she heard the news from Shi Hongqiao. President did not give you any orders, and only said that he will handle it himself. Shi Hongqiao nodded. Yes, from the looks of it, the president seems to be very disappointed in this matter. Although he hated Tong Yunshu, he still respected Lu Hongwei's heart. He still had respect for Lu Hongwei, Lu with Lu. Lu Hongqiao, Sun, Chao, sacred, with Lu with the assembly with sacred. Since the guild leader has said that he will take care of it, he will definitely take care of it. Chapter 54:20. None of the people who could become the president were simple, and they would not be so weak either. Even if this matter was a blow to him, he was still resolute and decisive in his actions. In fact, everything was just as Bailey Hongzhuang had predicted. Lu Hongwei began his actions a day later. The next day, Lu Hongwei directly announced the removal of Tong Yunshu's position as the vice president. At the same time, many cultivators in the Sacred Assembly who had colluded with the Shao family or the Shao family would be demoted or expelled. The name list was announced almost immediately, and this undoubtedly caused a huge uproar in the Sacred Assembly. Sure, Hongchao and the others could not help but be pleasantly surprised when they saw this decision. The president was really ruthless when he did things. On the contrary, the Shao family and the other cultivators immediately made a fuss. They only wanted to find Lu Hongwei and ask for the reason. We didn't do anything. Why are we being punished like this? Should we be treated like this just because Bailey Hongzhuang became the Saintess of the Light? Even if our young miss lost her position as the Saintess of the Light, she's still a cultivator of the light attribute. Treating us like this is too disappointing. Everyone on the name list started to make a fuss. They could not accept this result at all. However, Lu Hongwei did not explain anything in the face of everyone's questioning. Very quickly, another piece of paper was posted. When everyone saw the contents of the paper, the cultivators who were making a fuss all shut up. Each of their expressions was uglier than the last. It was not because of anything else, but because the reason for their punishment was clearly listed on this piece of paper. Almost everything that they had done during this period of time was written down. In fact, when they gathered together, they were very clear about who had done something wrong. However, now that it was written in black and white, they could clearly see who had done something shameful at a glance. This was not a normal embarrassment. When Shi Hongchao and the others saw this scene, they were stunned. They didn't expect the president to be so fast. They also didn't expect the president to investigate so many things in a short day. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the content written in black and white. Her heart was also filled with shock. Master, President Lu's actions are just as you guessed. He's swift and decisive, not giving anyone a chance to breathe at all. Xiao Hei's eyes widened. She did not expect that these guys from the Holy Assembly would do so many shameful things behind their back. They even kidnapped women. It was really disgusting. The president naturally has his own methods and information. It's just that he trusted Tong Yunshu too much, so he didn't investigate this matter in detail. As long as he wants to understand, it will only take a short time. Bailey Hongzhuang squinted her eyes. Every president was extremely powerful. Moreover, Lu Hongwei was the president of the Holy Light Assembly. Not only that, but he also had a certain degree of friendship with the guild leaders of the various guilds. If he wanted to learn about these matters, he had plenty of ways to do so. Those fellows who were hooting just now are too ashamed to continue speaking now. Chapter 54:21. Now that the evidence had been used against them, everyone did not have the face to continue staying here. Because no matter who it was, they would have to leave after making such a mistake. Tong Yunshu had been staying in the Shao family for the past few days. On one hand, she was worried about Xiao Sou, and on the other hand, she did not want to go back and face Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had become the Holy Maiden, her status was one level higher than hers. She could still remember clearly how she had scolded Bailey Hongzhuang. If she were to go back now, she would not have any face left. However, she did not expect that her position as the vice president would be removed just because she had not returned to the Holy Light Assembly for a few days. Ling Sun, are you sure? Xiao Sou looked at Jun Lingxuan in disbelief. The Holy Light Assembly removed my master's position? That's impossible. I'm not sure. Jun Lingxuan's face was solemn and serious. This news has spread throughout the entire Piercing Wind City. The vice president has been removed from her position, and many other members of the Holy Light Assembly have also been removed from their positions. It has already caused an uproar in the city. Master did not do anything wrong. What right do they have to remove her from her position? Xiao Sou's face was filled with anger and dissatisfaction. Don't tell me that just because Bailey Hongzhuang has become the Holy Maiden, they want to kick us out. The president will not mix personal and private matters. Tong Yunshu said resolutely, I know the president's character very well. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang has become the Holy Maiden, he will not allow Bailey Hongzhuang to mess around like this. Then what do we do now? Xiao So looked at Tong Yunshu anxiously. She did not have the face to go out and meet anyone now, but when she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's current status, she felt extremely indignant. Hence, she placed her only hope on Tong Yunshu. Even if Tong Yunshu could make Bailey Hongzhuang unhappy, she would still be happy. Once Tong Yunshu lost her identity, she would no longer be able to do this. On the contrary, they would become a complete joke in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. I'll return to the sacred assembly first. Tong Yunshu's expression was serious, her eyes sharp. Bailey Hongzhuang must have used my absence from the sacred assembly to make an issue out of it. As long as I return now, everything should still be salvaged. Master, you should go back quickly, Xiao So hurriedly said. After Tong Yunshu returned to the radiant sacred assembly, many gazes fell on her. Look, the vice president is finally back. He must have heard the news, so he hurried back, right? What vice president? Don't forget, she's no longer the vice president. Tong Yunshu's face turned cold when she heard the discussions. She immediately walked to the second floor of the radiant sacred assembly. She wanted to reason with the president. Isn't this Vice President Tong? At the top of the stairs, Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against the railing and looked at Tong Yunshu with a forced smile. Bailey Hongzhuang. Tong Yunshu gritted her teeth as she glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. She spat out each word. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you've become the sacred lady of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. The Radiant Sacred Assembly isn't something that someone like you can control. Tong Yunshu, don't try to pin such a big hat on me. If you want to say that I can do whatever I want, that's because of what you and Xiao So did back then. Chapter 54:22. Her beautiful and otherworldly face was calm and indifferent, revealing a trace of indifference and alienation. However, these words pierced Tong Yunshu's heart, causing her already ashen face to turn even more purple. In the next moment, Tong Yunshu directly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, wanting to pass by her and go to the second floor. However, just as she was about to pass by, Bailey Hongzhuang's pleasant voice rang out once again, "You're late, the president has already left." "Do you think I'll believe this kind of excuse?" Tong Yunshu coldly said. "It's up to you to believe it or not." Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently left behind a sentence, then walked down the stairs, as if she was too lazy to say anything else. Tong Yunshu quickly rushed up, rushing into the room without even knocking on the door. However, there was no sign of Lu Hongwei. "Hongzhuang, I heard that President Lu has already removed Tong Yunshu's position as the vice president." Shangguan Yingying eagerly moved to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, her beautiful face filled with excitement. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly nodded. "That's right, the Sacred Assembly has eliminated many problems today, and the Xiao family's power in the Sacred Assembly has been greatly affected. It's expected, the Xiao family should have expected it too, but I didn't think that Tong Yunshu would be affected as well." Di Beichen faintly smiled. Success is due to the same person, and failure is also due to the same person. Xiao So has received quite a big blow this time. I can already imagine how angry Xiao So is right now, but when the Sacred Assembly's headquarters move away, I'm sure she'll be even angrier. When that time comes, you all have to be prepared. Xiao So will definitely hate that she can't kill you all. When they head to the Ao family, there will definitely be many of them. Xiren was a little worried. If it was said that it was still a small fight among the younger generation, then after what had happened, things had already changed. "Don't worry, we can see how they are doing when the time comes," Di Beichen said. Without the support of the Holy Assembly, the alliance between the Xiao family and the Jun family is not so worrisome. However, there is still a problem, and that is your family's land of heritage. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. Although she had successfully snatched the identity of the Saint of Light, she still did not know whether her and Di Beichen's blood would work. In addition, if he wanted to open the land of heritage, he would need tokens from the Xiao family and the Jun family. Di Beichen also understood Bailey Hongzhuang's worries. He comforted her, "Everything will be fine when we get there. Our current situation is much better than before. Don't worry too much. Even if this matter turns out to be the same as what we expected, our confidence now is different from before." Looking at Di Beichen's indifferent and carefree appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood unconsciously relaxed a little. "That's right, let's take it one step at a time." After Tong Yunshu could not find Lu Hongwei in the sacred assembly, she ran to Lu Hongwei's house. However, no matter how she searched, she could not find Lu Hongwei, which made her feel very helpless. She could only return to the Xiao family again. After Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongqing knew about this situation, the two of them looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. "I didn't expect President Lu to burn the bridge after crossing the river. Even if Sowu is not the Saint of Light, he shouldn't go so far." Xiao Yanlong could not control the anger in his heart and roared on the spot. Chapter 54-23. This Bailey Hongzhuang does have some tricks up her sleeve. She has only become the saintess for a few days, yet she is already able to do this. Jun Hongqing narrowed his eyes, a dangerous glint flashing in his eyes. He did not need to think to know that this matter was definitely related to Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, they had already expected that after Bailey Hongzhuang became the Saintess of Light, she would definitely think of ways to remove the people that the Xiao family had planted in the sacred assembly one by one. Even so, they were not too worried because the Xiao family had placed too many people in the sacred assembly over the years. If Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to drive people out, she would definitely need a reason. Finding a reason would take a lot of time. Furthermore, if she cleared out too many people in a short period of time, it would also arouse suspicion. Therefore, from their point of view, it would be very difficult for Bailey Hongzhuang to do all this. However, reality gave them a resounding slap in the face. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were so fast that they did not even know what Bailey Hongzhuang had done. President Lu immediately cleared out so many people and even removed the position of vice president. To them, this was simply a bolt from the blue. This Bailey Hongzhuang is indeed not simple. Whether it is her or that Di Beichen, these two fellows are able to cause us so much trouble at such a young age. If they continue to grow, our troubles in the future will be endless. Xiao Yanlong sighed. Xiao Sou and the others rushed over after hearing that Xiao Yanlong had flown into a rage. Jun Lingxuan even seized this opportunity to directly tell them his plan. "You mean that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang will head to the Ao family when the time comes?" Xiao Yanlong asked. "That's right." Jun Lingxuan nodded. "Therefore, I plan to send more people over when the time comes and catch them all in one fell swoop. If this is true, it is a good idea. However, we do not know how many people the Di family will send. If they are prepared to take advantage of this opportunity to make a move on you, wouldn't that be troublesome?" Xiao Yanlong's face revealed a pondering expression. After all the things that had happened during this period of time, he was a little more afraid of the Di family. These fellows were not easy to deal with. Perhaps they were also scheming against them. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan subconsciously looked at Jun Hongqing. Jun Hongqing smiled and said, "Brother Xiao, you can be rest assured. Just leave this matter to me, and I will not give them a chance to plot against us. Comms. Don't worry, leave this to me." Two. In the next moment, the two of them looked at each other and a cold smile appeared on their faces. Now, this was no longer a fight between the younger generation. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had threatened their family. Therefore, they had to get rid of them completely. Ao Zhengquang racked his brains but could not come up with any solution. In the end, he had no choice but to look for Ao Lingxiao. He had already thought about it. Since he did not know the exact date, the best solution was to stay in the piercing wind city and not return. As long as he could not find him, Ao Lingxiao would not be able to do anything. This was undoubtedly the best solution. Chapter 54-24. You idiot! Jun Lingxuan looked at Ao Zhengquang with disdain. You can't even find out the date. What use do I have for a trash like you? Young Master Jun, you can't blame me for this. Ao Zhengquang's face was bitter. I was about to find out, but who would have thought that Ao Lingxiao would suddenly shut up? They are not stupid, they know that if we know the specific time, we will find a way to deal with them, so they have been keeping their mouths shut. However, I have thought about it, as long as I stay in the piercing wind city, they can't do anything to me. Ao Zhengquang's expression was serious. This was the best method he could think of after thinking for so long. If you don't go back, then Ao Lingxiao will directly convince your family to believe him. Then what will you do? Jun Lingxuan asked. No, if he can explain it clearly, then he will not fall into such a situation. But, now, not only him, there is also Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. These two people's eloquence, you should be very clear. Jun Lingxuan said lightly. When these words came out, Ao Zhengquang's face suddenly became nervous. Just as Jun Lingxuan said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's mouths could make a dead person alive, plus this matter was the truth. After all, there were still many doubts. Once the family was convinced, then he would be in trouble. Thinking of this, Ao Zhengquang's face became pale. Young Master Jun, you must help me, I can't lose everything. I beg you. Ao Zhengquang directly knelt in front of Jun Lingxuan, begging in a low voice. It was not easy for him to get everything he dreamed of. He must not lose it like this. You get up first. Jun Lingxuan glanced at Ao Zhengquang and said, Young Master Jun, help me. Leave this matter to me. Jun Lingxuan sighed, but his expression was full of confidence. You can go back with peace of mind. I will definitely arrive when they go to the Ao clan. At that time, I will catch them all in one fell swoop, and your identity will not change. But Junxiao, you don't know when they'll go. After listening to Jun Lingxuan's words, Ao Zhengquang did not feel relieved at all. On the contrary, he became even more worried. He felt that Jun Lingxuan was deliberately sending him back to die. He had no intention of helping him at all. I've said it before. Leave this matter to me. I'll figure out everything. When the time comes, the Xiao family and the Jun family will send their forces over. I guarantee that nothing will happen to you. Young Master Jun, don't think about your little schemes. This time, we're going to take advantage of this opportunity to capture Di Beichen and the others. If I didn't want to help you, I wouldn't even bother to lie to you. How could Jun Lingxuan not know what Ao Zhengquang was thinking? Just by looking at his nervous and hesitant appearance, he could guess it, so he simply said it directly. After listening to this, Ao Zhengquang was relieved. Indeed, if Jun Lingxuan was not willing to help him, he could not do anything. Why lie to him? Thank you so much, Junxiao. You must go back. If you don't go back, Di Beichen and the others will not go to your place, and I can't arrange anything. Yes, yes, yes. Ao Zhengquang nodded again and again. Junxiao, don't worry. I will go back early and will not ruin your plan. Chapter 54-25. Bailey Hongzhuang did not continue to stay in the piercing wind city, as the matters of the Radiant Sacred Assembly were more or less settled. According to her discussion with Lu Hongwei, it was better for her to wait until the Radiant Sacred Assembly had moved out of their headquarters before heading there. This way, not only would it be safer, it would also reduce a lot of trouble. At the same time, President Lu would also carefully inspect the members of the Sacred Assembly during this process. He had made such a huge mistake in the past, and he would not allow such a thing to happen again. Bailey Hongzhuang did not say much about this, as she believed that President Lu had his own plans. If she were to stay in the Radiant Sacred Assembly, she might even cause some trouble for him. If she were to leave, it would be more convenient for President Liu to use his methods. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest immediately set off on their return journey. Even when they reached the outskirts of the piercing wind city, they could still feel the watchful eyes on them. The Shao family obviously did not want to let them off, but the Radiant Sacred Assembly's forces were still here. Hence, they could only watch as Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest left. Even though this was their territory, it would not benefit them if they were to fight with the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Even though the Shao family was a large family, if they were to fight with the Radiant Sacred Assembly, they might not be able to gain the upper hand. Even if this was their territory. Everyone only heaved a sigh of relief when they reached the D family's territory through the teleportation array. The journey seemed to be more daunting than dangerous, but throughout the entire process, everyone was on guard against any possible danger. Once they returned to the D family, Bailey Hongzhuang was undoubtedly warmly welcomed. This time, only a small portion of the D family's cultivators had gone because to them, this was Xiao Sou's moment of glory and it had nothing to do with them. However, when everyone found out that the person who would eventually become the Holy Maiden was their young madam, they felt extremely regretful. If they had known that this would happen, they would have personally gone to witness it. Now, they could only regret that they had missed out on such a lively scene. "Welcome, young master, young madam, eldest young master." Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest returned to their lodgings with smiles on their faces. This time, they had indeed gained a lot. After meeting the elders, Bailey Hongzhuang went to Wu Weiming's residence. Previously, she had arranged for the disciples of the Bailey family to stay here, and she had been in the Piercing Wind City for the past few days, so she did not have the time to take care of them. Since he had returned today, he naturally had to ask them if they had made any progress recently. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, Wu Weiming immediately smiled and said, "Master, you're back." "Greetings, family head." All the Bailey family members bowed. "Congratulations, family head." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Everyone, don't be shy. You can go about your business." In his line of sight, a group of Bailey disciples were drying medicinal herbs. As they dried the herbs, they recited the characteristics and uses of the herbs. "Master, many of them are just beginners, so I let them learn from the most basic, identifying medicinal herbs." Wu Weiming took the initiative to explain. "They are indeed very hard-working. Even though they haven't had much time to learn, their improvement is not small." Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and listened to the characteristics of the herbs described by the crowd. She nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad, you have to remember more when you're just beginners. It's been hard on you these past few days. After I brought them here, I handed everything over to you." Chapter 54-26. As a senior brother, it's my duty to teach my junior brothers and sisters. Wu Weiming's face was filled with a gentle and warm smile, as if he had already taken this as his responsibility. Although he had inexplicably gained so many junior brothers and sisters, he did not feel that there was a problem. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang's guidance had greatly benefited him. Seeing Wu Weiming so calm, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart. Knowing Wu Weiming was truly something worth celebrating. If people respect me, I will respect them tenfold. This had always been Bailey Hongzhuang's principle. Wu Weiming's willingness to do this was undoubtedly because of her. After all these years, Wu Weiming had never taught anyone medicine. Now, not only had he started to teach people, but he had also taught so many people at once. This was a big change. As a result, Bailey Hongzhuang put in more effort to teach Wu Weiming. Wu Weiming also knew why Bailey Hongzhuang was doing this. He also understood why Bailey Hongzhuang was able to reach this step at such a young age. Her personality was also the key to her success. A person like this was worth others' efforts. At first, it was because of Bailey Hongzhuang's guidance that he was willing to help her, but now, everything he did was done willingly. He had never been willing to stay in any organization. He only felt that the feeling of being tied down was not good. Now, he felt that it was good to stop in the D family and take a break. Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke to the children of the Bailey family, giving them pointers on everything they needed to pay attention to when learning medicine. The children of the family were extremely enthusiastic towards Bailey Hongzhuang. They were truly fortunate to have such a family head. Now, the Bailey family was already as busy as a marketplace. Small organizations of similar strength all came to curry favor with them, including those who had previously mocked them. Bailey Hongzhuang had become the saintess of the light, which meant that not only did the Bailey family have the support of the D family, but also the Holy Assembly of Light. Even if the Bailey family's influence wasn't great now, everyone knew that the Bailey family was no longer a small fry. It wouldn't be long before they soared into the sky. It wasn't just the small forces, even some of the mid-tier forces had sent people to befriend them. Even though this was within Bai Li Fan's expectations, he still couldn't help but be shocked when he saw so many people. In his memory, he had never seen such a lively scene in the family. The entire Bailey family was immersed in a joyous atmosphere. After so many years of enduring humiliation, they could finally hold their heads high. Bailey Hongzhuang was not worried about the Bailey family. She was well aware of Bai Li Fan's capabilities and believed that Bai Li Fan would be able to handle it well. There was really no need for her to worry. The next day, Di Beichen was surprised to hear that someone had come to pay them a visit. "I wonder who has come to pay you a visit?" Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with curiosity. Could it be Jiang Wenyan? After the previous incident, their relationship with Jiang Wenyan had become extremely good. "I don't think so," Di Beichen shook his head. "If it was Jiang Wenyan, he would have sent a message directly." The Jiang family's influence wasn't small, and Jiang Wenyan was the young master. The person who sent the message would definitely have reported it clearly. Now, it could only mean that the other party wasn't a big deal. Chapter 54-27. Ever since they came to the upper realm, there were only a few cultivators who were close to them. However, after eliminating Murong Jing and the others, they couldn't think of any other possibilities. "Let's go take a look." Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughtful appearance, Di Beichen smiled faintly and raised his hand to take her hand. "Let's go." Feeling the warmth of his hand, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly as she smiled and nodded. "Okay." However, when Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang saw who it was, they were confused. Because they've never seen this person before. Within their line of sight, they saw a man wearing an azure robe. He was tall and had a jade-like face. He was definitely not someone that could be easily overlooked. This also made them understand that they had never seen this person before. Di Beichen didn't speak. He silently looked at the man. If he came to find them, there must be a reason. As expected, in the next moment, the man took the initiative to start a conversation. "I am Huang Futing. Greetings, young Master D. Miss Bailey. I wonder why you've come to find me?" Di Beichen was expressionless. Before he figured out the purpose of the man's visit, he wouldn't say anything. Huang Futing paused and subconsciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His expression was hesitant. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the change in his expression and couldn't help but say, "How about I leave first and you two talk?" Now that they were in the D family, they didn't have to worry about the man's tricks. However, Di Beichen waved his hand. "No need. You stay. Hongzhuang is my wife. If you want to talk to me about something, just say it. If you don't want to talk about it, then please leave." Hearing this, Huang Futing was a little startled. Looking at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, his emotions were very complicated. However, after thinking for a moment, he said, "Actually, I took a risk to come here today because I have something to discuss with you." "What is it?" "I heard that young master is of the dark attribute." "Not bad," Di Beichen replied calmly. The news that he was of the darkness type had already spread out after the immortal cloud's secret realm. He had no intention of hiding it. Actually, I'm also of the darkness attribute, Huang Fu Ting said. Di Beichen's gaze paused for a moment before he heard Huang Fu Ting continue. Young Master Di, I'm sure you've heard about the current situation of darkness attribute cultivators. They're being suppressed and targeted everywhere. Their days are very difficult. I know. Di Beichen nodded. He had already understood this situation when he had awakened the darkness attribute. At that time, even though he had awakened a max-level talent, he was still treated with disdain by everyone. The Holy Light Assembly even refused to give Hong Zhuang the cultivation manual because she was with him. This time, I'm here on behalf of the Darkness Attribute cultivators to ask for your help. After thinking for a while, Huang Fu Ting directly stated the purpose of his visit today. After a short period of contact, he felt that Di Beichen wasn't an unreasonable person. Moreover, the reason why he hadn't come to look for Di Beichen during this period of time was because he had been trying to understand this person from various aspects. Even if Di Beichen had attainments in the power of darkness that others couldn't reach, if he wasn't good enough, it would be useless. Chapter 54-28. Ask for my help? Di Beichen frowned slightly. This was his first time meeting Huang Fu Ting. He was surprised that Huang Fu Ting would say something like this. Young Master Di, you are so talented in the darkness attribute. We feel that you are the one who can make the power of darkness stronger again. We want to follow you and hope that you can lead us to become stronger together. Huang Fu Ting's expression was serious. He looked at Di Beichen with sincerity and a hint of eagerness. Whether it was Di Beichen or Bailey Hongzhuang, they both understood that Huang Fu Ting had been suppressed for too long. He had not seen any hope for so many years. When he finally saw a glimmer of light, he could not help but be so anxious. The two of them looked at each other. They were also amazed. In fact, when Di Beichen accepted He Shenjuan's inheritance, he had already shouldered the heavy responsibility of making the world accept the power of darkness. Before this, they had also discussed that they had to gather the cultivators of the darkness attribute together and make everyone stronger. Only in this way could they expand the influence of the power of darkness. As for the bad impression everyone had of the power of darkness, they could only slowly eliminate it through their efforts. They did not expect that the cultivators of the darkness attribute would take the initiative to find them. It was really interesting. Why should I help you? Di Beichen said indifferently. As soon as these words were spoken, Huang Fu Ting was slightly stunned. He truly didn't know how to answer this question. Speaking of which, Di Beichen was the young master of the Di family. Whether it was his identity or status, it was not something they could reach. They urgently needed Di Beichen's help, but Di Beichen did not need them. In fact, they did not seem to be able to do anything for Di Beichen now. Young Master Di, I understand that we can't help you in any way now, but we are all people who know how to repay kindness. As long as you are willing to help us, we will follow you after we become stronger. We will follow you blindly. Huang Fu Ting's voice was filled with determination. All these years they had been like cockroaches, hiding everywhere. They were simply unable to live openly. Anyone who found out that they were dark attribute cultivators would look at them with disdain, or even chase them away. As a result, they did not even have a stable place to stay. This kind of oppressive feeling was really too unbearable. They desperately hoped that one day, they would be able to hold their heads high and be upright. This was the kind of life they wanted. How can I believe you? Di Beichen sized up Huang Fu Ting. Even though everything Huang Fu Ting showed was very sincere, he would not trust others so easily. Moreover, the Jun family and the Xiao family were now thinking of ways to deal with him. No one knew whether this was a trap or not. Even if they were both darkness-type cultivators, it didn't mean that they were on the same side. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Huang Fu Ting's eyes instantly brightened. Di Beichen was willing to continue listening, which proved that he still had a chance of success. I understand your concerns. I am willing to sign a master-servant contract so that you will have no worries. In the next moment, a hexagram star quietly formed. Huang Fu Ting directly integrated his blood essence into the contract totem. Chapter 54-29. As the 2 drops of blood essence fused into it, Di Baichen and Huang Fu Ting had an additional connection. The master-servant contract was a kind of obedience contract. This meant that Huang Fu Ting could never betray Di Baichen in the future. As long as he betrayed him, the contract would directly erase him. Bailey Hongzhuang did not expect Huang Fu Ting to use such a method to make them believe him. However, this was indeed more convincing than other words. Young Master Di, you should believe my sincerity now. Even though the master-servant contract had been carried out, Huang Fu Ting's expression still did not change. His expression was calm, as if he had already made up his mind before coming. Tell me about your current situation. Di Baichen's handsome eyes were tinged with a trace of seriousness as he asked in a deep voice. If Huang Fu Ting and the others were indeed good, he would naturally do his best to help. After all, he shouldered such a responsibility. Now that this opportunity had appeared directly in front of him, it would save him a lot of time. We now have a total of 200 members, all of whom are darkness attribute cultivators. Everyone has slowly gotten in touch with them over the years. They are all trustworthy people. Then what's your identity in this team? I'm the team leader, Huang Fu Ting said. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows. He had long guessed that Huang Fu Ting's identity in this team was probably not simple, but he did not expect him to be the team leader. It seemed that this time, Huang Fu Ting had really made up his mind. That was why he had directly done such a thing. Darkness attribute cultivators don't seem to be living very well now. How do you guys live? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. If these 200 people lived together, it would be a very large group. We don't usually gather together. Everyone hides in various places to live low-key lives. We only gather together when something happens. In that case, you guys have almost no cultivation resources. Di Baichen looked at Huang Fu Ting. Darkness attribute cultivators had always been ostracized. There was no way for them to openly fight for cultivation resources like other cultivators. Moreover, the cultivation method of the darkness attribute had disappeared for many years. Even if they had the cultivation resources, it was impossible for them to strengthen the darkness attribute. With Di Baichen's words, Huang Fu Ting's face reddened. This was indeed their current situation. This is a mess. Di Baichen sighed. This situation was not beyond his expectations, but he could not help but sigh when he really faced it. However, when Huang Fu Ting heard Di Baichen say this, a trace of anger could not help but appear on his face. Young Master Di, our current situation is indeed very bad. We can't compare to you, the young master of the Di family, but you don't have to say that about us. If you don't want to, you can just say it. Looking at Huang Fu Ting's angry appearance, Di Baichen chuckled. You don't have to be so angry. This is indeed a mess, but I agree. Huang Fu Ting was slightly stunned. The anger on his face didn't even have time to dissipate before a trace of joy appeared between his brows. Young Master Di, is what you said true? Di Baichen nodded slightly. With our current relationship, do I need to lie to you? Huang Fu Ting's face immediately revealed a smile. Young Master Di, thank you so much. Chapter 54-30. You can stay here for the time being. Take me to see them tomorrow. Di Baichen's eyes were deep and complicated. Now that he had decided to accept, he had to figure out the specific situation. He only hoped that Huang Fu Ting's vision was not wrong. This way, the implementation of this plan would be more convenient. Yes. Immediately afterward, Di Baichen and Huang Fu Ting talked for a long time, and learned more about the darkness attribute from Huang Fu Ting. Bailey Hongzhuang did not avoid arousing suspicion. Huang Fu Ting was originally a little afraid of Bailey Hongzhuang's identity as the Holy Maiden of Light, but after seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to mind, he was relieved. He had long heard that the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen was stronger than gold. Now it seemed that it was true. Otherwise, if it were anyone else in the Holy Assembly, they would definitely think of ways to stop Di Beichen after knowing this situation. But until now, Bailey Hongzhuang had been so calm. No matter what Di Beichen did, she would support him unconditionally. After a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen left. Beichen, I heard that Huang Fu is a big surname. Do you think Huang Fu Ting is related to the Huang Fu family? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. When Huang Fu Ting introduced himself, this thought appeared in her mind. Because although Huang Fu Ting had been living in poverty these years, from the temperament he inadvertently revealed, she felt that his birth should be extraordinary. Why don't we ask Big Brother? Di Beichen smiled faintly. Big Brother is better at the matters between the upper realm families. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Okay, it's better to know more. Di Xiaofeng was clearly surprised when he heard the name Huang Fu Ting. He said in disbelief, "You're saying that Huang Fu Ting is now your servant?" "That's right. We just signed a master-servant contract," Di Beichen replied. "Big Brother, do you know this Huang Fu Ting?" "Quite a few people know about him." Di Xiaofeng shook his head and sighed. "It's just that all these years there's been no news of him at all. Many people thought that he had already fallen. I didn't expect him to still be alive. It seems like he hid himself very well." "Big Brother, what exactly is going on?" Di Beichen's eyes darkened. He already understood that Huang Fu Ting probably had a lot of stories. The Huang Fu family is also a big family, but they are quite far away from here. Moreover, they have always had a reclusive attitude. Usually, they don't appear very often, but their strength is still not to be underestimated. Huang Fu Ting was once a genius of the Huang Fu clan. Of course, that was before his darkness attribute had awakened. At that time, he was also very well known. His cultivation speed was far faster than ordinary cultivators. He was known as the genius most likely to take over the position of patriarch. When his attribute awakened, he was also the center of attention. Who would have thought that he would awaken the darkness attribute? That was really a bolt from the blue. Since then, his status plummeted. As for why he left the Huang Fu clan, I don't know. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. In fact, no matter which family a darkness attribute cultivator is in, their status can't be compared to others. It's normal for them to be bullied. Maybe he couldn't stand it, so he left. Chapter 54:31. Ever since he found out he was of the dark element, he had been worried. The Di family was a family of cultivators and had a lot of influence. If they knew he was of the dark element, perhaps they would treat him differently. However, when he felt the strong familial love, he decided to tell them this news. Even if he would be looked at differently, he didn't plan on hiding it. Luckily, his family still made him feel warm and their attitude didn't change. This made him feel very lucky. Of course you're different. Plus, our family isn't that cold. Di Xiaofeng smiled. Nothing is more important than family reunion. Indeed. Di Beichen nodded. He had always wondered why his parents left him. He thought it was a knot in his heart that couldn't be untied. Now, it seemed like it wasn't a big deal. That Huang Fu Ting wasn't a simple person before. I didn't think he would be willing to be your servant. Di Xiaofeng sighed faintly. Although he didn't know what Huang Fu Ting had experienced all these years, he believed that no one would be willing to accept all of this. Although the master-servant contract had existed for a long time, it was rarely used. This was because normal people wouldn't be willing to accept another as their master. Plus, Huang Fu Ting himself was a genius. He must have thought of this because he had nowhere else to go. A hero at the end of his road was truly lamentable. Big Brother, don't worry. I won't mistreat him. Di Beichen's expression was calm. The reason he signed the master-servant contract was because he wanted to confirm Huang Fu-Ting's sincerity. For such a big matter, if Huang Fu-Ting didn't come with full sincerity, others would make a big deal out of it. That would be troublesome. Now that he had confirmed all of this, he would treat Huang Fu-Ting as a friend. Huang Fu-Ting was willing to make such a big sacrifice for the dark element cultivators. This was worthy of respect. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Do you think I don't know you? You're really good to your friends. If it weren't for this, Jiang Wenyan wouldn't have taken the initiative to befriend you. Actually, I think I should discuss this with my father before I do this. Di Beichen's eyes darkened. This was not a small matter. Although this was something that he had to do, he had to tell his father about it before he did it. If his father agreed, that would undoubtedly be for the best. If not, he could only think of other ways. Have you really decided to establish a dark guild? Emperor Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask. Nowadays, the upper realm's expressions would change at the mention of the darkness attribute. Establishing a dark guild was an extremely crazy idea. No. Di Beichen shook his head. You don't plan to establish it? I plan to establish the Dark Sanctum, Di Beichen said slowly. Cough, cough, cough. Di Xiaofeng almost choked to death. Dark Sacred Assembly? That's right. Di Beichen nodded. It's the Dark Holy Assembly. Since light and darkness were opposing forces, they were in the same position. Since he had established the Holy Light Assembly, he would definitely establish the Dark Assembly. Chapter 5432. Beichen, is what you said true? Di Xiaofeng now felt that his younger brother's idea was too crazy and too shocking. Establishing the Dark Guild would inevitably be targeted and criticized by everyone. If he mentioned the Dark Sacred Assembly now, it would be the same as directly going against the Light Sacred Assembly. Although both sides would have to bear a lot of pressure, it was obvious that the latter would be much more pressured than the former. Di Beichen nodded. Of course it's true. Do you think I would joke about this kind of thing? That's not it, I just feel that it won't be easy to do it. Di Xiaofeng frowned and his gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Hongzhuang is the Light Sacred Maiden, if you mention this idea, I'm sure Hongzhuang will also bear a lot of pressure. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's identity as the Light Sacred Maiden was unshakable, compared to the reputation that Xiao Shou had accumulated over the years, Bailey Hongzhuang's time was still too short. Now that the Light Sacred Maiden's husband wanted to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Bailey Hongzhuang was caught in the middle and the pressure would be even greater. Di Beichen's expression became more dignified. Indeed, he didn't care about anything else, but he couldn't not care about Bailey Hongzhuang. However, facing the worries of the two, Bailey Hongzhuang was unusually calm. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. A bright smile appeared on her delicate face. They can't do anything to me. At most, I won't be the Light Sacred Maiden. She was different from Xiao Shou. She didn't care about the title of Light Sacred Maiden. In fact, she was very clear that the Sacred Maiden Crystal had already recognized her, and no one could shake her position. The reason why she became the Light Sacred Maiden was for the Di family. Now that Di Beichen wanted to do everything he had to do, she naturally had to support him. It wasn't only Beichen's master's wish, it was also her grandmaster's wish. She also had the responsibility to complete it. She hoped that whether it was her master or grandmaster, they could leave without regrets. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference, Di Xiaofeng helplessly shrugged. If Xiao Shou knew that you don't care about the Light Sacred Maiden position, she would probably be furious. She's about the same now. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Di Xiaofeng laughed involuntarily. Since you've already thought it through, naturally, I have no reason to stop you. In short, remember one thing. No matter what, I will always support you. Big brother, thank you. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Huang Fu-Ting went to the gathering place of the Dark Attribute Cultivators. After everyone knew about Huang Futing's decision, they all gathered in a city not far away from the Di family. Yesterday, Di Beichen had already discussed it with Di Yujue, and the final result was undoubtedly excellent. Di Yujue was shocked when he first heard of Di Beichen's idea. He also understood that once this proposal was made, the Di family would become the target of public criticism. However, after thinking for a moment, Di Yujue chose to agree. His words were very simple. No matter what you do, you must take risk. This move was indeed very risky, but Di Beichen himself was of the dark attribute. If he wanted everyone to have no prejudice against him, it was undoubtedly excellent to establish the dark sacred assembly and completely change everyone's thoughts. Chapter 54-33. When Di Beichen saw that Di Yujue had only thought about it for a short moment before agreeing, his heart was also in turmoil. A father's love was like a mountain. He deeply understood the meaning of this sentence. Di Yujue had never expressed this kind of deep and strong feeling, but he felt it clearly. But it was precisely because Di Yujue was so calm that he was incomparably hesitant. His family was willing to take such a big risk for him, but he put everyone in danger for himself. Was this really the right thing to do? If this matter was successful, then the Di family would inevitably become even more powerful. Because, just based on the status of the two sacred assemblies, it was not something that ordinary forces could shake. But if it failed, the Jun family and the Xiao family would inevitably take the lead to make trouble for them. Faced with such a heavy pressure, how would the Di family deal with it? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen, a trace of worry in her eyes. Yesterday, after returning from Di Beichen, she felt that something was wrong. Until now, Di Beichen seemed to be immersed in his own thoughts, obviously thinking about something. But, according to Beichen, his father did not refuse. Beichen, is there something on your mind? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask with concern. Di Beichen shook his head. Nothing. Looking at Di Beichen's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment. Usually, he would not hide anything from her, and the reason why he was like this now was probably related to her. After thinking about it for a while, a possibility appeared in her mind. Beichen, are you worried that the establishment of the Dark Assembly will affect us? She had been with Beichen since she was a teenager, and now it had been many years, so she knew the latter's character too well. He had never been a selfish person. On the contrary, he valued friendship and righteousness. Everyone he cared about was in his heart. Di Beichen paused for a moment. Wife, you don't have to worry about me. You should be the one who doesn't need to worry about us. Bailey Hongzhuang held Di Beichen's hand and interlocked their fingers. She smiled and said, whether it's me or your parents, since we've chosen to support you, we're prepared to take on everything. You don't have to worry about us. You just have to do it without worry. Besides, we all believe in your ability. You will succeed. Because you're not alone. All of us are with you. Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. His deep black eyes filled with warmth, and his handsome features became increasingly gentle. Wife, I know you've always supported me. If you're not happy, neither of us will be happy. I always feel that as long as a person is alive, there must be something that they want to persevere in. The Dark Sanctuary is your responsibility, and it's also something you want to do. Since that's the case, then don't hesitate. Think about it, there are so many dark attribute cultivators who need your help. They need you to give them a home. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. She was clearly such a slender and petite person, but at this moment, she gave him a huge amount of strength. From yesterday until now, he had been troubled by this problem, repeatedly thinking about whether his approach was right or not. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang's words had completely opened the knot in his heart. Indeed, everyone had their own mission and things that they must persevere in. He wanted to help his master fulfill his dream, and at the same time, he wanted to fulfill his own dream. Chapter 54-34. Without the burden in his heart, Di Beichen's expression returned to normal. Although Huang Fu-ting did not know what Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had talked about, he was relieved when he saw that Di Beichen was in a much better mood. In a courtyard house at the edge of the city, Di Beichen finally saw a group of darkness-type cultivators. When they saw that Huang Fu-ting had returned safely, a joyful smile appeared on their faces. "Brother Huang Fu, you're back! Huang Fu-ting is back, everyone come out quickly!" Upon hearing this news, all the cultivators rushed out like a swarm of bees. Previously, when Huang Fu-ting had decided to go alone, everyone could not help but worry that he would never return. No one knew what kind of temperament the cultivators of the aristocratic families had. If they felt that Huang Fu-ting's request was too much, it was very possible that they would directly take his life. Now, seeing that Huang Fu-ting had returned safely, everyone finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, after noticing Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang at the side, they restrained their emotions. "Brother Huang Fu, why is the Holy Maiden of the Light here too?" "That's right, don't tell me she wants to kill us all." Gazes of hatred and fear landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had become a household name in the upper realm. Even among them, there were people who had seen Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance. Because of that, someone immediately recognized him. Light and darkness had always been enemies. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was the Holy Maiden of the Light, so she must be extremely disdainful of them. If she conveyed their situation to the Holy Light Assembly, Bailey Hongzhuang would have done a meritorious service. "Everyone, please calm down, things are not what you think," Huang Fu-ting hurriedly explained. However, at this time, everyone obviously did not care about this. They were filled with hatred towards Bailey Hongzhuang. "Brother Huang Fu, I think you've been tricked by her. How can the Saint of Light not hate us?" All these years, they had been hunted down by the Radiant Sacred Assembly and had to hide everywhere. Therefore, they were filled with hatred when they saw the Radiant Sacred Assembly. If it weren't for them, he wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was the Saintess of the Light. Di Beichen immediately stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at the hateful figures in front of him, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. "If any of you dare to take another step forward, don't blame me for being impolite." Di Beichen was not afraid even in the face of 200 cultivators. After awakening their cultivation, these cultivators did not have any cultivation methods, so their strength was not terrifying. When Huang Fu-ting saw that the situation was out of his control, he could not help but feel anxious. "Listen to me first, Lady Bailey is not what you think. Don't you believe me?" The crowd stared at Huang Fu-ting hesitantly as countless thoughts flashed across their minds. They even wondered if Huang Fu-ting had been bribed by the other party. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the faces full of fear and tension in front of her. Almost everyone inadvertently exuded the kind of fear that spread from the bottom of their hearts. Years of hiding had caused their hearts to become dark and lonely. Chapter 54-35. Even though she already knew that these cultivators did not have an easy life, she was still shocked when she saw it with her own eyes. At this moment, she suddenly understood why the Master Association had given this last wish to Di Beichen. It was because these cultivators who had awakened the darkness attribute were simply too innocent. They clearly did not do anything wrong, but they had to live so miserably. Therefore, they had to clear the name of the darkness attribute and let everyone face and accept the power of darkness again. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately stood up and said, "Can everyone listen to me first?" Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had taken the initiative to stand up, everyone looked at each other. In reality, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had already seen through their fierce appearance. Seeing that no one spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang continued, "I know that everyone is hostile to me because of my identity as the Holy Maiden of the Light, but I believe that you also know that I come from the lower realm and am not very clear about the grudges between the upper realm's elemental guilds. Moreover, my husband is a cultivator of the darkness attribute. If I really rejected the darkness attribute, then I wouldn't have been with him all this time. Don't you think so? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the agitation and anger in everyone's hearts calmed down a little. In fact, they also felt that this was very strange. If it were anyone else, they would probably not be able to accept such a combination. In my opinion, darkness is also a very powerful force. I hope that all of you can become stronger. I also support Beichen in everything he does. Of course, I also hope that everyone can put aside their prejudice against me. We don't have any grudges, do we? Her exquisite and peerless face rippled with a bright and beautiful smile, like the warm sunlight in winter, sprinkling into everyone's dark hearts. It was as if a gap had suddenly opened up, causing the unwillingness and resentment to quietly dissipate a little. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had completely calmed everyone's emotions with just a few words, Huang Fu-ting also sighed in his heart. It was no wonder that Bailey Hongzhuang was able to gain a foothold in the upper realm so quickly. Her ability was indeed astonishing, and she deserved to be the holy maiden of the light. While Bailey Hongzhuang was speaking, Di Beichen looked at her with a smile. He was very clear about his wife's ability. This kind of thing was really nothing to her. Most importantly, in order to completely change everyone's views, Bailey Hongzhuang had to speak up herself. Even if he repeatedly emphasized it, it would still arouse doubt. It was better for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, and instead make everyone even more shocked. The effect, indeed. Since everyone has calmed down, I can now tell you about my plan. As soon as Di Beichen spoke, everyone was silent. Huang Fu-ting has already told me why you came to find me. I sympathize with everyone's experience and hope that I can help everyone become stronger. Of course, my main goal is to completely change the views of the people in the upper realm towards the darkness attribute. Therefore, I hope that everyone can work together and work towards this goal. I wonder what everyone thinks? Di Beichen's gaze swept over the crowd one by one, taking in everyone's expressions. His words were nothing more than a test.